Yo, what's up guys, Alpha, and today I'm going to be doing a full in-depth deck breakdown of a deck that I've recently used to hit rank 5 with on the arena ladder. As you can see from the untapped screenshot, I'm currently 21-3 with this deck, so it's been performing really well for me. And now before I get into it, there's going to be an MTG zone link down in the description. If you click on that, you'll have the full deck list there that you can import into arena if you want to try the deck out for yourself. But anyway, with that all out of the way, this is my mono blue Oracle Kitten combo deck in Alchemy. Now like a lot of other people, I've recently been trying to brew around Oracle of the Alpha and figure out the best way to combo off with this card, and this deck has definitely felt like the best way to do so. I do want to preface this by saying that I think this deck is really difficult to play optimally because there's so many different decision points that you need to make because we're running a ton of cantrips. Bounce spells in general are quite hard to use effectively, and once we get Displacer Kitten online, there's a ton of decision points from there as well, and making one misplay, especially if it results in Displacer Kitten getting killed, can be disastrous as well. But having said that, don't let that put you off picking up the deck because it's so much fun to play and is really powerful once you get your engines online. So to explain the combo, I think the best place to start is looking at the card that this whole deck is built around, which is Displacer Kitten. So this is a 4-mana 2/2, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you get to blink another non-land. You get to blink a non-land permanent. And the main card that we're trying to pair this with is Cyber Siphoner. So Cyber Siphoner, 4-mana 2/2 with flash, costs 2 less to cast if there are no instants or sorcery in your hand. When it enters the battlefield, return an instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand, and if it would die, shuffle it into its owner's library instead. So if you can get Cyber Siphoner and Displacer Kitten in play together, it's so powerful because whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you get to blink the Cyber Siphoner, allowing you to get back the best instant or sorcery from your graveyard. So every non-creature spell you cast, you just replace it with the best instant or sorcery from your graveyard. And these two cards together basically just locks the opponent out of the game because we have 8 bounce spells in the deck which we can just loop to continuously bounce everything the opponent plays. And then once the opponent's board's clear, we can start casting our cantrips like Consider and Seek New Knowledge to try and dig towards Oracle of the Alpha. And this is the way that we win the game once we have it locked out with Displacer Kitten and Siphoner. So Oracle of the Alpha, 3-mana 2/3 with flying, and when it enters the battlefield, you conjure the power 9 into your library, then shuffle, and whenever it attacks, you scry 1. So if you're unfamiliar, the power 9 is Ancestral Recall that you can see here, Time Walk, Time Twister, Black Lotus, and then the 5 Moxes as well. So the main card that we're interested in comboing off here with is Time Walks. This is a 2-mana sorcery, take an extra turn after this one. So if we can play Time Walk and we have it in our graveyard, if we can set up Displacer Kitten plus Cyber Siphoner, we can use the Siphoner to get back Time Walk from the graveyard, take an extra turn, and then we just cast another instant, blink the Siphoner, get back the Time Walk again, so we can essentially just take infinite turns. And then once we have infinite turns set up, we'll be able to find Fading Hope or Rona's Vortex just to bounce the opponent's whole board, and then just attack for lethal. So that's the main way that we have of winning the game. The really nice thing about Displacer Kitten in this deck though is that it really helps to mitigate the big weakness of Oracle of the Alpha. So the big reason I was really skeptical about this card, and the big reason why I'm not a big fan of most of the other Oracle of the Alpha builds that I've seen, is that Oracle of the Alpha for the most part will put 3 really good cards into your deck and 5 or 6 just whiffs basically, because Ancestral Recall and Time Walk are obviously insane. Time Twister is also very powerful and can be great in a lot of situations. Black Lotus can be nice if you get it early, but then the Moxes for the most part are just off-color lands in your deck. You know, unless you happen to draw these and you need to ramp and you still have your land to play for the turn, the Moxes are basically just dead draws in your deck. But in this particular deck, they're actually pretty sick if you have Displacer Kitten, because say we have Kitten plus Prophetic Prism or Wedding Invitation in play, all of the Moxes, whenever we play them because they're artifacts, they're non-creatures, they trigger the Displacer Kitten, which allows us to bounce Prophetic Prism, Wedding Invitation or Cyber Siphoner to essentially just draw us a card, so they immediately replace themselves with the Displacer Kitten, which really helps to mitigate the big weakness of the deck, because I'm really not a fan of the Oracle of the Alpha decks that don't have Kitten, because you're just filling your deck with additional lands that don't produce the colours you need basically. So while we're talking about it, I might as well go over these 2 cards. So Prophetic Prism and Wedding Invitation are basically just here as 2-mana artifacts that draw a card when they enter the battlefield. So in their own right, they're obviously not that important, but since the whole deck is basically built around Displacer Kitten, these are really crucial at just ensuring we always have something to blink to gain us card advantage, because previously I was trying some more creatures in the deck. I had Circuit Mender in the main deck for a while. I also tried Aether Channeler, which is a very powerful card in this shell, but the big issue with those cards is they're just way too vulnerable to interaction. I would often have situations where I would have a Circuit Mender or an Aether Channeler or a Cyber Siphoner in play, for example, and then I would cast the Displacer Kitten and the opponent would just kill the other creature in response. So I kept kept running into situations where I would have Displacer Kitten, but nothing to bounce it with to get value. And Prophetic Prism and Wedding Invitation, since they're artifacts, and even if the opponent has artifact removal, they're not targets that you'd want to be able to kill because they immediately get you value anyway. They will just sit on the battlefield once you play it on turn 2, and then as soon as you find Displacer Kitten, even if you don't have Cyber Siphoner, it allows you to just draw a card for every non-creature spell that you cast, which is really, really powerful at just ensuring you don't run out of gas. Wedding Invitation is basically just 2 mana artifact, draw a card on ETB. Prophetic Prism, the additional text on this is actually pretty relevant, so you can pay 1 and tap it to add 1 mana of any colour. So first of all, this is pretty useful because we have Forerunner's Vortex in the deck, which is a 1 mana instant, return target creature or planeswalker you don't control to its owner's hand. If it was kicked, put that permanent on the bottom of its owner's library instead. So mono blue decks for the most part have trouble dealing with stuff permanently. Obviously mono blue generally has bounce spells, but for the most part, that's only delaying the card. The opponent gets to recast it later. But the fact that we can potentially cast the kicker on this to deal with something for good is really, really powerful. If you look at the mana base, we are running 4 Shipwreck March, which is essentially free to do in a mono blue deck, which allows us to cast the kicker. But if we don't have the Shipwreck March and we want to deal with something permanently like a Shieldred or a Planeswalker, for example, Prophetic Prism allowing us to turn our blue mana into black is actually pretty relevant there. And then another really nice thing about Prophetic Prism, especially when we're comboing off with Oracle of the Alpha, is if we draw the Moxes, we can play a Mox like a Mox Emerald here, for example, use Displacer Kitten to bounce the Prophetic Prism to draw us a card, and then we can turn that green mana into blue mana to allow us to play more of our blue cards, which is really powerful at allowing us to combo off. You know, once we have Displacer Kitten plus Prophetic Prism, Wedding Invitation, or Cyber Siphoner, we can often then start blinking Oracle of the Alpha if we have spare spells to put more Moxes into the deck so that we draw them. We can then blink Prophetic Prism whenever we draw them and then turn the off-color mana into blue mana, which allows for these crazy combo turns where you can put like, 9 or 10 Moxes into play and draw like 20 cards or something crazy like that. So Prophetic Prism, great with Rona's Vortex, and also great turning the off-color Moxen into actual colors of mana as well. Then the other cards in the deck, are basically all instant. So we've got 4 Consider, 4 Fading Hope, 4 Rona's Vortex, and 4 Seek New Knowledge. And the reasons that they're all instant is because it's really, really important to protect Displacer Kitten in this deck. This whole deck is basically built around finding Displacer Kitten and then protecting it. And the really powerful thing about Displacer Kitten is it can blink itself. So if the opponent targets it with removal like an Infernal Grasp or a Voltage Surge, if we have an instant speed spell, we can just cast that and then Displacer Kitten can blink itself to protect it from removal. So the most important thing when playing this deck is to make sure that you always protect the Displacer Kitten. So it's almost never correct to just play it out on turn 4. For the most part, the earliest that you want to play it is on turn 5, so that you can cast Displacer Kitten and then hold up something like a Consider or whatnot. And you also need to be really, really careful to protect it, because say you have Displacer Kitten and Cyber Siphoner, or a pretty common curve out that happens is turn 4, flash in Cyber Siphoner at the end of the opponent's turn. Then on turn 5, play your land for the turn and play a Displacer Kitten and hold up Consider. Now, past the opponent's turn, it can be very tempting if they attack to block with the Cyber Siphoner and then fire off Consider to blink it, get another instant back, and prevent the damage. But if the opponent's playing well and they're playing heads up, they're just going to wait for you to blink it and then kill the Displacer Kitten or the Siphoner in response, both of which are really bad. So, say you don't do that and you wait till the end step. Again, if the opponent is playing well, they might wait until the end step because they can probably see that you're holding priority, and then wait for you to fire off the Consider, and then again kill the Displacer Kitten or Cyber Siphoner. So the most important thing I would say when playing this deck is to just be very, very cautious that you constantly hold open ways to protect Kitten if you expect the opponent has removal. So in that spot, even if it gets to the opponent's end step, and you want to use the Consider so you don't end up wasting your mana, it's often better to just pass the turn back to your turn, and then if you get to untap with Displacer Kitten Siphoner, that's often going to be good enough. Whereas a lot of the time, if the opponent's playing well, they'll wait for you to cast a spell and then try and kill Kitten in response. So that's the most important thing with this deck. Just make sure that you always have a way to protect Kitten. Don't get greedy going for value if it results in Kitten getting killed, because if you go over the top casting too many spells and you don't hold up a way to protect the Kitten, that is going to single-handedly lose you more games than anything else. But anyway, looking at these instant speed spells anyway, consider 1 mana instant, look at the top card of your library, you may put that card into your graveyard, draw a card. So this is really important in the early game at just filtering through cards. Like I said, we typically want to play Kitten on turn 5 and hold up a way to protect it. So hitting land drops is very, very important in this deck. You want to be curving out until at least your 5th land drop in basically every game. So consider very nice at helping us find lands. Also just generally good at finding stuff to go with Displacer Kitten if we already have it, or find the Kitten if we don't. And then, you know, once we have our loops set up, like we've got Kitten and Siphoner, or Kitten and Prism, or Wedding Invitation, consider and Seek New Knowledge, that I'll get to in a second, are very good at helping you find Oracle of the Alpha. Once we've played Oracle of the Alpha, they're very good at helping you find Time Walk as well. So just very, very good at digging through the deck. And Fading Hope and Rona's Vortex are both bounce spells. Fading Hope, 1 mana instant, returns target creature to its owner's hand. If its mana value was 3 or less, scry 1, and then Rona's Vortex I've already explained already, but these are here as basically our early interactions. So generally the game plan of this deck is we're trying to get ahead on tempo in the first few turns of the game, keep the opponent off the board, and buy us time to set up our Kitten engines. And then once we have Kitten engines set up, we just gain that card advantage immediately back and just bury the opponent in card advantage. So we can afford to lose tempo in the early game, or sorry, we can afford to use card disadvantage spells like the bounce spells here in the early game just to buy us some time, because once we have Kitten set up online, we basically just get all of that card advantage back immediately. So Fading Hope, generally the better out of the two, especially when you're dealing with creatures in the early game, because the scry is very important at helping you find the pieces that you need, helping you hit lands as well. The other really big thing about Fading Hope is that you can bounce your own creatures with it as well, which is very important in the face of sweepers. Generally this deck is very good against single target removal because Kitten can just blink all of our stuff in response. The deck is a little soft to sweepers though, and so having Fading Hope to be able to bounce stuff like a Displacer Kitten to recover the following turn is really huge, so don't forget that. And then Rona's Vortex, it doesn't give us the scry and it can't bounce our own creatures, but the ability to hit Planeswalkers does come up quite a lot. And again, like I said, the ability to kick it and deal with something permanently is really important as well. Then we've got 4 copies of Seek New Knowledge, 2 mana instant, 6 2 non-land cards, and then put a card from your hand on the bottom of your library. So this is really huge at just helping us dig to whatever we need. We do have quite a high land count. We've got 24 lands and a lot of ways to draw in the early game. So Seek New Knowledge is a good way to mitigate flood. I think we do need to run a very high land count because we do need to hit our 5th land on curve in most games. But Seek New Knowledge is a good way to mitigate flood. Similar to Consider, it's a way for us to find Kitten. We can find, you know, Prism, Invitation, or Siphoner to go with the Kitten if we need. Helps us find the Oracle once we have Kitten set up, helps us find Time Walk once we have the Oracle in play. So these 2 cards are just really nice to loop with the Cyber Siphoner when we don't need to bounce stuff as well. Then onto the mana base, like I said, 24 lands is really important. Even though we do have a ton of ways to draw, we need to hit our 5th land on most games on curve, so having a lot of lands in the deck is really important. We're mono blue, so Ottawa is basically free to run as a legendary land with the channel ability. I don't think you really want to be running more than one though, because being in a situation where you might miss a land drop because you drew 2 of these is kind of a disaster. And then like I said, we've got 4 Shipwreck Marsh as a way for us to just cast the Rona's Vortex, which is basically no downside. You know, you might have to play this tapped on turn 1 in certain hands, but for the most part, there's basically no downside to playing this. A few tips when playing this deck. The cost reduction on Cyber Siphoner is very, very important. So if you have, for example, Cyber Siphoner and Consider is the only other instant in your hand, you want to go into full control mode, cast the Consider, and then with the Consider on the stack, you can flash the Cyber Siphoner in for 2 mana. If you don't go into full control mode and you wait for the Consider to resolve, you might draw another instant or sorcery, which will make the cost go back up to 4. So be very aware of this interaction because it comes up quite a lot, where you have 1 instant or sorcery, go into full control mode, cast it, flash the Siphoner in response. Similarly, you also want to set stops during your upkeep quite a lot, because if, for example, you have a Fading Hope as the only instant in your hand and Cyber Siphoner, if you cast a Fading Hope at the end of the opponent's turn, Cyber Siphoner will be reduced to 2 mana. Then you go to your upkeep. Before you draw for the turn, you can flash it in for 2 mana before you draw. If you wait to draw for the card for the turn, you could draw another instant, which would reduce put the cost back up to 4 again. So that's something to be very aware of. Another thing is you generally don't want to blink Oracle of the Alpha with Displacer Kitten until you have Kitten in play and you're very sure that you can defend it, because for the most part, unless you have Kitten already, putting more Moxen in your deck is a very bad idea. Once you have Kitten and you're confident you can defend it, it's actually decent because any of the Moxen you draw just produce more mana and draw you more cards, but filling your deck with the Moxen when you don't have Displacer Kitten just puts more dead draws in the deck, so you don't want to do that. And outside of that, like I've said many times, the most important thing in this deck is that you don't get too greedy when you have Kitten in play. You just want to play super cautiously, especially the turn you play Kitten. Like I said, if you play Kitten on turn 5 and you have an instant, be very, very careful that turn because, you know, firing off a Consider at the end of the opponent's step and them killing Displacer Kitten in response when you could have just passed back to your turn and untapped with it is a disaster. So most important thing with this deck is just defend Displacer Kitten at all costs, basically. Anyway, that's the main deck. Onto the sideboard. We've got 4 copies of Negate, so this is here for just control matchups in general. You know, against slower decks, Fading Hope and Rona's Vortex aren't as important, especially if they're not running many creatures, and Negate is just great at shutting off tons of their stuff. And then again, we can hardlock the opponent out of the game. If we have Kitten and Siphoner, we can just keep looping Negates to just counter everything they do. You can also bring this in if the opponent is playing problematic stuff as well. You know, if the opponent is playing a deck where you expect to see a lot of sweepers, like I said, our deck is generally good against single target removal, but a bit weak to sweepers, so you can consider bringing some Negates in those sorts of matchups as well. But this is basically for against control decks where your bounce spells are less effective. Then we've got 3 copies of Ray of Frost. So this is a 2-mana enchantment with flash. Enchant creature. When it enters the battlefield, if Enchanted Creature is red, tap it. As long as Enchanted Creature is red, it loses all abilities, and Enchanted Creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. So, this is basically exclusively here for mono red decks. I think in general, this deck is very strong against the slower decks in the format because it essentially plays a tempo and a combo role. So any deck that you're against that gives you more time is going to be good. So typically, I think the worst matchups for this deck are the more aggressive decks. Now, having said that, you know, you do have access to really good starts. Fading Hope and Rona's Vortex can buy you time, and setting up Displacer Kitten Siphoner with bounce spells basically just instantly wins you the game against the aggro decks. But I did feel, especially going second, I did need something extra for the mono red decks, and this is great because it basically just gives mono blue a way to basically work as a hard removal spell. And the other great thing in this particular deck is we can also bounce it with Displacer Kitten. So if the opponent has a creature tapped down and we have Displacer Kitten in play, we can cast an instant which allows us to bounce the Ray of Frost and tap down something else. So Ray of Frost is just very good against mono red to help out in that matchup. 2 copies of Pithing Needle is very important. So this is a 1-mana artifact. As it enters the battlefield, choose a card name. Activated abilities of the source with the chosen card name can't be activated unless they're mana abilities. So first of all, this is very good against the Rakdos Anvil deck at naming Onikoa Anvil, naming Blood Tithe Harvester just to shut off their key pieces and slow them down a bit, because that can be another tricky matchup if they have fast starts, and a lot of the drain that they do will be from Onikoa Anvil, so naming that in those matchups is really important. This is also very important against Graveyard Hate. The 2 most common Graveyard Hate that's being run in the format right now is Viconia and Unlicensed Hearse. I don't really see anything else. Those are the only 2 types of Graveyard Hate that I ever come up against, really. So if the opponent's playing a deck like Esper or White-Black that is likely to be having those cards post-sideboard, Pithing Needle is a great card to bring in there because you can just name Unlicensed Hearse, name Viconia, and then it just stops their Graveyard Hate. Viconia isn't as bad because we can just bounce it during the opponent's end step and then go off. Unlicensed Hearse is more difficult to deal with, so if you expect the opponent to be bringing Unlicensed Hearse, always bring in Pithing Needle against them. Then we got 2 copies of our own Unlicensed Hearse, so 2-mana artifact vehicle. Tap it to exile 2 target cards from a single graveyard. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of cards exiled with it, and then it has crew 2. So this is here pretty much exclusively for the Oracle of the Alpha mirror matches against other combo decks, because outside of Negate, we don't really have good ways to interact with what they're doing, and I'm not a big fan of bringing in Negate in those sorts of matchups anyway, because a lot of their deck will be creatures. So Unlicensed Hearse just basically stops them comboing off, which is basically their whole deck, and then just allows us to win pretty freely after that. So Unlicensed Hearse basically exclusively for the mirror, but if you come across a deck like Reanimator as well, obviously bring it in there. And then the last card, 4 copies of Circuit Mender, 3-mana 2/3 artifact creature. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life, and when it leaves the battlefield, draw a card. So this is basically here for aggro matchups and for any deck that is pressuring your life total like Rakdos Anvils, because the really nice thing about this card is, first of all, it's just a good stumbling block against aggro. You know, you play this, you gain 2 life. It's a 2/3, which is decent stats. Can trade off with a lot of the aggro creatures in the format. And then, you know, when it dies, you draw a card. But it's particularly nice in this deck with Displacer Kitten because you draw a card when it leaves the battlefield, not just when it dies. So if we have Circuit Mender alongside Displacer Kitten, we can bounce this, gain 2 life, and draw a card, which is so big, especially against a deck like Rakdos Anvil, where most of the times that you lose, they will just be trying to drain you out. So if you can set up a situation where you have Circuit Mender and Displacer Kitten, it kind of works like a mini Thragtusk, and you can gain so much life off this that it just completely stops the aggro or the Anvil decks being able to win. So anyway, that's the deck. I hope this didn't go on for too long, but there's quite a lot to explain in the deck, so I did want to make sure I go over it. It's been such a fun deck to play, and I definitely feel like this is the best shell for Oracle of the Alpha, because Displacer Kitten is such a powerful card in the format. You know, I think the power level on this card is so far above basically everything else in the format, and Displacer Kitten also goes a very long way to mitigate the drawbacks of Oracle of the Alpha as well. So I've been having a ton of fun with this deck. Next up, I've got some gameplay that I was playing with this deck so you guys can see it in action. I've only got 4 matches this time because they are quite long. That's another thing I would say about this deck. You do need to play reasonably quickly, because I have timed out a couple of times when playing this deck, especially if the opponent makes you play out your combo every single time. But anyway, next up we've got 4 matches with the deck so you guys can see it in action. So I hope you enjoy the gameplay. Big up.
Okay, sweet, here we go. Okay, so we're going first here. And yeah, this hand looks decent. We've already got Kitten. We've got Consider to help us try and find more lands. I would say, like, it's very important to try and dig for lands in your first few turns, especially when you have Seek New Knowledge, because the big drawback of Seek New Knowledge is it can't find lands. Okay, Monk of the Open Hand from the opponent. And I think we want to keep the Wedding Invitation here because it's we now have something to blink with Displacer Kitten going into our turn 5, which is really nice. So Monk of the Open Hand is kind of scary. It looks like the opponent's probably on mono white aggro, which isn't the best matchup for this deck because we're relying on single target bounce spells to interact. So if the opponent can swarm the board quickly, that can be difficult. Wow, they miss a land drop though. That's got to be good for us. So I'm just going to pass here. I think we'll probably Fading Hope one of their creatures and Seek New Knowledge. I am cautious of Thalia here. Thalia is a very good card against our deck, so we'll see what they do here. Okay, so they play Hopeful Initiate. We're definitely going to bounce this Monk of the Open Hand because we don't want to let them get the training bonus on the Hopeful Initiate. And sweet. Okay, we definitely want more lands. You typically want to just keep digging for lands until you hit your 5th land, and then our goal now at this point is basically to try and get to land 5, cast Displacer Kitten, and hold up a 1 mana instant to protect it. Because even though we're against mono white that's unlikely to have as much removal, I think, we still want to not risk it getting hit by a Brutal Cathar or something. So I'm not sure whether to keep Seek New Knowledge or Prophetic Prism here. I think in general we just want to try and hit more lands, so Prophetic Prism being able to hit lands is good. It also gives us something to do this turn whilst still holding up Fading Hope and Rona's Vortex. We could play the other Prophetic Prism here, but I think, especially if they have Thalia, we want to hold open the bounce spells. We do want to hold on to one of these bounce spells here though, because like I said, our goal here is to try and get to turn 5 and hold open something like a Rona's Vortex to protect the Kitten. So while we would love to use Rona's Vortex now to just stem the bleeding a bit, we definitely want to hold on to it just to make sure that we have a way to protect Displacer Kitten next turn. So Guardian of Andal's pretty scary because that's a creature that we really don't want to blink if possible, because they're just going to be able to just cast it over and over again and get extra copies of it. But I think, we can still bounce everything else. So as long as they don't have multiple Evangels, then that's not a big issue. Like, I'm kind of glad they casted it out now rather than when they had 4 mana. Oh, okay. Cyber Siphoner is a sick draw because now we have multiple bounce spells in the graveyard. So if we get to untap with Displacer Kitten, I'm going to play very cautiously this turn to try and make sure that we do. Then we can set up Siphoner plus Kitten with 2 bounce spells, which is essentially allows us to cast, just loop these 2 bounce spells over and over again to just keep bouncing the whole board. Okay, they have Expedition Supplier, so they're tapped out here. For the most part, you want to play super cautiously the turn you play Kitten, but since they're playing mono white, which is going to have very little removal anyway in the main deck, and they're tapped out here, I think we can just fire off the Rona's Vortex. Anyway, now there is some consideration to not getting the draw here. I'm going to set a stop during the upkeep because once we cast this Rona's Vortex, we have no instants in our hand. So the Siphon is going to cost 2 mana. So there is an argument to potentially not blinking the Wedding Invitation on Prophetic Prism here to guarantee that the Siphoner will cost 2 mana, because if we bounce one of their creatures and draw a card and it's an instant, Siphoner will cost more than 2, but I'm not sure it's worth giving up the draw here. I mean, maybe it is. Okay, sweet. We drew a land, which is actually good. Yeah, to be honest, maybe it was better to not blink the Prism there because If we don't, we can guarantee that we get to cast, what would that be? 4 bounce spells next turn. So we get the Fading Hope back here. Now every time we cast a Fading Hope, we can blink the Cyber Siphoner, get back the other Fading Hope, blink another creature. So as long as they don't play Thalia here, I feel pretty good about this spot now. Yeah, thinking about it, I think it was pretty risky bouncing the Prophetic Prism earlier. I think it probably would have been the better play to, you know, maybe block with the Kitten and blink it in response before combat to save some damage and just ensure that we get to guarantee bouncing 4 creatures. Because if we'd drawn an instant, we wouldn't have been able to bounce as many creatures here, which would help us not stabilise. So opponent has Brutal Cathar here. I mean, they should definitely try and hit the Kitten, because if they try and hit the Cyber Siphoner, we'll just blink it in response and get value, whereas doing it this way kind of forces us to lose value off one of our instants. So we could potentially bounce the Brutal Cathar and still get value off it, but since we have a second burn spell in our hand, I think we can afford to just bounce the Kitten here. Because again, similar to Sigardian Evangel, Brutal Cathar isn't a card that we're thrilled to bounce. Definitely want to keep a land on top here because it just enables us to bounce an extra creature next turn. You know, we're essentially in a spot now where we can just bounce every creature the opponent ever plays for the rest of the game for 1 mana. So extra mana here just ensures that they're never going to be able to make, like, overrun us on the board, basically. Okay, so attacking with everything. I'm definitely going to block the Sigardian Evangel here because that's the one creature that I don't want to bounce. I don't want to give them extra Evangels in hand. So we can just bounce the Initiate, blink the Siphoner, and then get back Fading Hope. And, I mean, normally getting back Fading Hope in this spot would be better, but we already know that the top card is an island, so we don't really need any more scries here because we want the land on top, basically. So we can just blink the Siphoner again. Blink the Siphoner, bounce the Monk of the Open Hand, and then fire off Rona's Vortex again, bounce the Expedition Supplier, blink the Siphoner again here, and then could get back Fading Hope, could get back Consider as well, just to get value. I mean, maybe that's a bit greedy, because I was thinking we could go Consider and then potentially try and find an Oracle, but it might be better. I mean, we've already got the Consider, so I might as well do it now anyway, but it was probably better to just keep Fading Hope and just do our cantripping at the end of the opponent's turn. Don't think we want Cyber Siphoner. So yeah, I think what would have been slightly better there was just getting back Fading Hope at the end of the opponent's turn and just passing, and then we can Fading Hope all of their creatures, and then with any mana that we have spare, we can just start using Considers to try and dig for Oracle to try and close the game out. Okay, opponent plays Expedition Supplier. So again, I think we should be good this game, unless they're running something weird. Even if they play Thalia, you know, we have enough mana where we can just bounce the Thalia for 2 mana and then just bounce everything else anyway, so I think at this point we're just trying to find Oracle, put Time Walk into the deck, and just keep bouncing everything the opponent plays, find the Time Walk, and then just win that way. So again, I don't want to bounce the Evangel, so I'm going to block it. I'm going to bounce the Monk of the Open Hand, blink the Siphoner in response, just to prevent the damage from the Evangel without having to bounce it. And then I want to loop Fading Hopes here because we are interested in the Scry, and I think we're basically just looking for Oracle of the Alpha at this point, because we pretty much have the board locked already. So we can bounce the Siphoner again, get back Fading Hope again. Okay, bottom the Wedding Invitation, and then can bounce the rest of their board as well. Again, I don't want to bounce the Evangel because that is a potential way they can swarm the board and tap down our stuff at the same time. Okay, we can bottom the Rona's Vortex, don't really need that. I guess the one thing that they could beat us is Graveyard Hate, but I very much doubt they're going to be main decking Graveyard Hate. And it would have to be non-creature Graveyard Hate as well, something like Unlicensed Hearse. Okay, so bottom the Consider. We'll just bounce the Hopeful Initiate here, and then we can start firing off Consider, just to try and dig us towards Oracle. Okay, maybe we should have kept the land there, actually, thinking about it. Because we do, you know, we always want extra lands here, I think. I think we'll just get back the Fading Hope here. Oh, whoops, I didn't mean to bottom that land. That was a misclick. I was just thinking that I need to get Alpha. But, I mean, I don't think it should make a difference. We already have 7 mana. That's going to be bouncing at least 7 creatures each turn. And we'll get Scries on them because their creatures are so small. So yeah, that was a mistake on my part. I think I can start attacking with the Kitten here, and I think I'm going to use the Consider to try and dig for a land here, or potentially an Oracle as well. I think we probably have enough mana to cast Oracle at this point if we do draw it. Okay, sweet, there's a land. So yeah, I shouldn't have bottomed that land during the end of the opponent's turn. We just want to keep hitting lands here, so because the more lands we play, we can just bounce everything with Fading Hope, and then once everything's bounced, we can start using Considers to dig for Oracle. And then once we've got Oracle, we're pretty much good from there, because we can start blinking the Oracle to put more Moxes in the deck. Every Mox that we draw, we can blink Prophetic Prism to draw a card, and then turn it into blue mana with the Prism as well. Oh wow, they're trying to... Okay, that's not going to work out. We can just blink the Kitten in response here. Draw a card off the Consider. Okay, don't want the Wedding Invitation. So again, we're just looking for lands or Oracle at this point. I mean, yeah, the opponent's really not got much they can do here, I don't think. Especially if they're playing mono white. So see if they don't attack. They might want to protect the Wandering Emperor here. Okay, they do attack. Again, we'll just block with the Siphoner and just start bouncing their creatures in response. Yeah, okay, sweet. Opponent didn't make us play it out. So here, I mean, we're against an aggro deck, so we definitely want Circuit Mender here. And I always bring in Circuit Mender and take out Wedding Invitation when I bring in the Circuit Mender. That's always a straight swap. Not sure whether we should bring in Pithing Needle here. Like, I like bringing in Pithing Needle against any deck that I think is likely to run Unlicensed Hearse, but I think there's a chance, you know, Unlicensed Hearse isn't that popular. Most decks that I expect to be running Hearse are decks that are running Viconia as well. Stuff like Esper, stuff like White-Black, maybe Red-Black as well, which are already all decks that I want to bring in Pithing Needle against. If we do see Unlicensed Hearse, then we'll obviously have to bring it in if it goes to a Game 3, but as things stand, I don't think it's worth risking making the deck a little bit less consistent. Okay, so we drew a land, which is great. You know, this hand... The risk of keeping this hand is if we miss lands, because we don't have any cantrips to find lands. And the big drawback of Circuit Mender, whilst it is very good against aggro at just, you know, buying us a bit of time and being really sick to loop with Displace the Kitten, is that it doesn't draw on ETB. It only draws when it leaves the battlefield, which can mean that you don't get as much card draw as you would if you're running something like an Aether Channeler or like Wedding Invitation, which we replaced it with. Oh wow, they have Thalia. Okay, that's pretty rough. That's the card that we really didn't want to see. I mean, thankfully we have Rona's Vortex, which we'll use to bounce the Thalia, but that's only buying us a bit of time here. Especially if we miss lands, this is going to be quite rough. I mean, we can get Circuit Mender into play, which is good, because that is going to, you know, gain us a bit of life, allow us to block, and, you know, if they do attack into it, we get to draw a card when it dies as well, which is very appealing right now. Okay, they do play the Thalia out again. I'm going to set a stop during the upkeep here, just in case they didn't play the Thalia. We could consider and then cast Cyber Siphoner in response, but now they've played the Thalia, Consider costs 2 mana, so we can't really do that anymore. So I'm going to take the trade here, just because we are definitely on the back foot. We do need to slow them down a little bit, and we get to draw a card here. Okay, so unfortunately, since they played the Thalia, we can't go Consider and Siphoner during the upkeep. I think I'm just going to play the Oracle out here, just as a blocker, essentially, you know. It stops them attacking with the Thalia, which is good at least. And then I'm going to set a stop during the upkeep again, just in case, you know, we want to scry off the Fading Hope, because hitting lands is super important. Hitting the 5th land is crucial, so I think if I'm going to Fading Hope, I probably want to do it during the upkeep just to try and guarantee that we hit a land here. Okay, they've got Expedition Supply for the Thalia, which means they can attack with both creatures here, which is kind of scary. I'm not going to block here, you know, it's not worth chump blocking. So I'm going to Fading Hope during the upkeep just to try and hit a land, because hitting land drops is super important here. Even though Rona's Vortex is pretty appealing, I think hitting lands is more important. And we missed. Okay, that's a bit annoying. While Thalia's off the board, I'm going to consider to try and hit a land. Okay, we hit one. So at least now we can Seek New Knowledge. I would love to scry off the attack, but we can't really do that here. One other thing to be aware of is that seeking off Seek New Knowledge doesn't affect the order of the cards in your deck. So you can scry with Oracle of the Alpha and then Seek New Knowledge, and it won't affect the top. Same thing with Fading Hope as well. It doesn't affect any scrying you've done, which is important to be aware of. Well, they don't play the Thalia. I mean, I'm pretty happy to see that, but we are... Oh, we're just dead on board. Yeah, okay. Whoops. Okay, so that was pretty unfortunate. I mean, we did stumble on mana a little bit, and they had Thalia. Going into game 3, though, we're going to be on the play, which is going to be pretty important. Didn't see Unlicensed Hearst. I'm not 100%, but I'm fairly confident they're not going to be playing it. So I think just running a more linear deck rather than hedging on Pithing Needle, because the other thing with this deck is they don't really have other good targets for Pithing Needle. I mean, this hand might look pretty bad, but I'm so tempted to keep it because we want to hit our 5th land on curve. We have considered to make sure that we draw more gas, and we kind of lost. Well, it wasn't the entire reason we lost last game, but having to use cantrips to find lands last game did slow our proactive game plan down. Okay, Circuit Mender's nice. Now we've got something to blink with the Kitten. Ooh, okay, that's also a very nice draw, because now, Siphon costs 2 mana, we can flash it in now, get back the Consider, and then we can cast Circuit Mender. Okay, Thalia is a bit annoying, but we can go Siphoner, Circuit Mender, they can't really attack past with the Thalia, and then Thalia is a bit annoying because we can't go turn 5 Kitten and protect it with Consider, but, we could potentially just go Kitten on turn 4 because of that. Wow, they played Portable Hole. I mean, I guess they might have thought that Siphoner cost 2 mana because we cast it on turn 2. Okay, now we've drawn a second Kitten. You should almost always never cast Kitten on turn 4, but against a mono-white deck where they're not likely to have removal for it as much, and we can't protect it until turn 6 anyway, I think I like doing this now. And now if we get to untap, we can start blinking Circuit Mender, which is going to be nice. Okay. So we get to untap with Kitten, which is huge. Now I feel pretty good about this because the amount of life gain that Circuit Mender gives you when you start blinking it is really, really good. And if we can find a bounce spell, that's going to be sick. Then we can bounce Thalia and really unlock, Siphoner plus Kitten again. Start bouncing their board again. Even without 2 burn spells, if you have even without 2 bounce spells, if you have a bounce spell and a cantrip like Consider, you can still, go bounce spell, blink Siphoner, Consider, blink Siphoner, bounce spell. Okay, so we're basically just looking for bounce spells here, I think. So we'll Consider again here, and I think it's much better to blink Circuit Mender than Siphoner while Thalia's in play, because we can't really cast as much stuff from the graveyard anyway. Okay, we'll bin the land here. Okay, perfect. Now we've got the bounce spell, which is sick. We could go for the bounce spell now, but I think I like waiting until the opponent's turn. We ideally want to, since we're at 28 life, we're not under threat of getting attacked, in the near future anyway. It's pretty appealing to wait until the opponent's end step and then use Fading Hope on Thalia, so that we have a turn where we can just use all of our mana, basically. We don't have to worry about the Thalia attacks. And because of Circuit Mender, we're at such a high life total now where we don't really need to worry about getting attacked down. We can let the damage through here, basically. So again, similar to game 1, we would really like to find a second bounce spell here so that we can just bounce a ton of their stuff. I mean, thankfully, since they've tapped out now, we can, we don't have to wait until the end step anymore. We can use the Fading Hope on Thalia now, which is pretty nice. Again, I'm going to bounce the Circuit Mender here. We could have bounced the Siphon to get a Consider, but actually, yeah, that probably would have been better because then that guarantees that we Oracle. I think we'll keep Oracle because we have Siphoner Kitten set up already. Yeah, I think it probably would have been better to bounce the Siphoner there and get a Consider back, and then we could have made more use of our mana, but hopefully it shouldn't make a difference. So I'm going to start with Seek New Knowledge here, and then get back the Fading Hope so that we can bounce Thalia next time when they play it. Okay, sick. Now we have Rona's Vortex, so we have 2 bounce spells. We have the same setup as game 1 now, which is pretty nice. Again, we want to make sure that we don't get overwhelmed on the board, so I'm going to wait to play the Oracle because, we just want to make sure we hold up open mana so that we can just bounce everything they play. Just trying to think what to discard here. I think, we don't need 3 Displacer Kittens, especially against mono white where they're unlikely to have removal, and we can protect the Kitten pretty easily here. So I'm just going to bounce the Adeline here while we can, and then get back Consider here. Not really sure what we're scrying for because we already have the Oracle now. So I think we'll just bounce everything pre-combat, and then we can just bounce the Thalia as the last thing here, basically. So we'll bounce the Monk of the Open Hand, blink the Siphoner, get back the Rona's Vortex. Don't need the Seek New Knowledge. And then they can cost 2 of their 1-drops, but we can just bounce the Thalia. Yeah, okay. Sweet, we got there. Okay, so we're going first here. And I can't keep a 1-lander. Okay, this looks a lot better. Going to definitely put back a land here. Then we've got Consider on turn 1. We've got Prophetic Prism, which is a nice payoff for us having Kitten, which is really nice. See what the opponent's on here. Okay, Swamp Shambling Guard. So it could be a number of decks. Going to consider here. If we hadn't had the Prophetic Prism in hand, I definitely think I would keep that. But since we already have the Prophetic Prism, we don't really need another artifact. You know, the value of the first one is way higher than any extra ones. Okay, I mean, we're pretty happy to see lands. We always want to hit our 5th land on curve if possible. Seek New Knowledge also gives us nice kind of protection from Flood as well, which is really nice here. So if we do draw another land, we can just put it back with the Seek New Knowledge. Okay, opponent plays a Swamp. And a Cursebound Witch. So again, could be a number of decks. You know, could be the white-black Reezug list that I posted last week. Could be mono-black. Could still be red-black. You know, I've seen a few Anvil variants that run Cursebound Witch and Unlucky Witness. Okay, so they're running white. So maybe the Reezug list that I posted last week then. Yeah, okay, looks that way. Okay, so the opponent has a lot of cheap creatures, which, you know, the starts that this deck struggles against the most are just a lot of cheap creatures. Thankfully, these cheap creatures all have 1 power, though, so they're not really that threatening. Okay, we drew a Siphoner. I'm going to set a stop during the upkeep because I want to flash it in before we draw it in case we draw another instant or sorcery. And I'm going to get back Consider here because we really want a 1-mana cantrip for our turn 5 with Displacer Kitten. Maybe it was correct to play Wedding Invitation there, but I was thinking if we get to untap with Displacer Kitten, I want to guarantee that we have stuff to draw to trigger the Kitten, but maybe that was greedy. Maybe I should have just played the Invitation there. Either way, I don't want to use Consider now because we definitely want to, especially if they are playing my Reezug list. The only interaction they have main deck is Rite of Oblivion, which is sorcery speed removal, so we should be pretty safe just going Displacer Kitten and holding up Consider for the turn. Didn't want to block there, obviously, because they can kill the Siphoner. Even though we have Prophetic Prism to loop with to blink with the Kitten, it's generally much stronger to have Siphoner, even though we have another one in hand. So again, I want to be super careful here. You know, it is very tempting to block with the Siphoner and blink it in response, but then that opens us up to getting hit by Rite of Oblivion in main phase 2. So, okay, so they play the Reezug, play a Scoured Barons, and even though my list that I was running wasn't running any instant speed removal, I'm still going to play super cautiously because if their list is running cut down, I don't want to risk, you know, going Consider and them cut downing the Displacer Kitten in response because that could single-handedly lose me the game. It's not worth the risk there. Okay, so now I think we're in a pretty good spot. You know, I think unless they're main decking Mythic Massacre, it's going to be very difficult for them to break up our board here. Now, I would like to find a bounce spell to deal with Shieldred, but outside of that, I think we're in a, you know, if they are running my build with just Rite of Oblivions, even if they're running Cut Down, I think we're in a safe enough spot now where it shouldn't matter, hopefully. So, we'll see what the opponent does here. I mean, I think we're in, you know, we've got Considers here. We could potentially block and start blinking stuff because we have so many 1-mana instants. And I think I've still got enough stuff to protect the Siphoner here. Oh, wait. Oh, no. Okay, that was a huge punt on my part. I thought I had another Consider or something in the graveyard. Okay, that's really bad. Because now I kind of have to use Consider to protect the Siphoner here. which means that if they have a Rite of Oblivion for the Displacer Kitten, I can consider to protect it, but then I don't have a way to stop the flashback unless I happen to draw another 1 mana instant. So that was a big punt on my part. I shouldn't have blocked. That was just really greedy. I should have just let the damage through and held up both considers here, because now if they have Rite of Oblivion, I need to draw a 1 mana instant off the top. Yeah, okay. That was stupid on my part. I thought I had a consider or something in the graveyard for some reason. Right, so now I just have to hope to hit a 1 mana instant off the top, I think. I mean, we still have ways to recover if we whiff, but that was completely avoidable. That was just bad on my part. Come on. Oh, okay. Thank God. Okay. We got lucky. So they can flash back the Rite of Oblivion here, but thankfully we drew the Fading Hope. So what I should have done there is just let the damage through, and then when they do use Rite of Oblivion, we can just consider, and then consider again to protect the Kitten. I mean, we didn't get punished because we drew one off the top, but that was just sloppy play from me. And that's exactly the sort of spot where this deck can be difficult to play, because you need to constantly consider, okay, what if they have 2 removal spells? Can I play around that with the instants that I have in hand? So I'm going to bounce the Reezug here just because I don't want them to continuously get value off it. It might be better to bounce the Elasil Core instead, but we don't really care about the opponent's life total really, because, you know, when we're taking infinite turns, it doesn't matter. You know, they could be at 1,000,000 life and we just still end up winning. Although having said that, I did lose 1 match to a Naya life gain deck by timing out because they were at like 60 life and I was playing a bit slowly. So you do need to play reasonably quickly with this deck, or you can end up in situations where, especially if it takes a while to find the time warp, where you might risk timing out. Now we've got Siphoner and Kitten, we can just go for Oracle, put Time Walk in the deck and just try and dig for it at this point basically. And I mean, if they are running instant speed removal, it is a bit sketchy because, you know, we've only got Seek New Knowledge as an instant in hand, but I think that should still be good enough protection, because if they do use something on the Kitten, we can just Seek New Knowledge, bounce the Kitten, and the chances of us setting another instant are pretty high, so I think we just got to play carefully here, not make the same mistake I did last turn. Okay, so opponent replays the Reezug, plays an unwilling ingredient. I mean, it is kind of scary because Cursebound Witch does have some cards that are difficult for us to beat. Can't remember the name of them. Torment of Scarabs is quite annoying, especially if you're trying to take infinite turns, as is Cruel Reality is probably the most difficult card for our deck to beat. So, Arena was kind of giving away that they don't have anything. And if they are playing my list, they're not going to be running instant speed removal anyway, so if I was worried that the opponent might have removal there, I think it's probably a bit risky playing the Seek New Knowledge, because they could try and kill the Kitten in response to Seek New Knowledge, and we wouldn't have had a way to stop that, but you can't play around everything, and Arena was giving away, they didn't really have anything there as well. So now we can just fire off Consider, bounce the Siphoner here. Okay, yeah, sweet. So, what do we want here? So, I mean, sack decks in general, like especially Red Black Anvil, Circuit Mend is super important because they have so many ways to deal direct damage. This particular build does have some sacrifice synergies, like it has Shielded, it has Braids, but I don't think it has enough life direct damage that Circuit Mend is worth it. I do think I want Pithing Needle. I'm just trying to think how many, whether to bring in 1 or 2 here, because, you know, I am worried about Unlicensed Hearse. But the annoying thing is they don't really have... I guess we can name Reezug with it. That's not a bad name otherwise. But yeah, I mean, having a way to stop Unlicensed Hearse is really important, because we can win through Unlicensed Hearse just through getting value off drawing loads of cards off the Kitten, or potentially getting to a point where we have 2 Siphoners, but it is quite a difficult card to beat if you're trying to go for infinite turns, because we rely on Cyber Siphoner looping Time Walk from the graveyard over and over again. So having Pithing Needle being able to shut off Unlicensed Hearse is really important. And the other nice thing about, you know, even though we can name Reezug, even if they don't have one, we can still put it back with the Seek New Knowledge. You know, first one I'm pretty happy to just play naming Unlicensed Hearse, and then if we do draw the second one, we can always put it back. Plus, it's a non-creature, so it triggers Displacer Kitten as well. which is a pretty nice interaction. Okay, this hand looks decent. You know, we've got Prophetic Prism as a way to reuse the Kitten blinks. We've got Oracle of the Alpha already, which is nice. Okay, we did draw Pithing Needle already, which is, you know, it's nice to draw the first one because it just means that we're not going to get shut out by the Unlicensed Hearse, which is nice. So I'm definitely looking for lands off the consider here. We really want to just keep drawing lands here if possible. Okay. Okay, we didn't draw one. Hopefully we're drawing off the Prophetic Prism here. And generally out of the two, you definitely want to prioritise getting Prism into play first because the mana fixing is actually relevant. Now, I can imagine there might be a spot where the Wedding Invitation ability could be useful if you're like racing the opponent on tempo, but I've never been in a point where I've used that. So since the opponent's played Welcoming Vampire, I think I just want to play the Oracle here just to stop them attacking, stonewall them a little bit, and then I'm going to set a stop during my upkeep just in case they play Shieldred, because they still haven't fixed, you know, if you don't set a stop during the upkeep, it will skip straight to your draw step and damage you, whereas if they play Shieldred here, we can just bounce it before we draw for the turn, which is nice. Okay, they're scrying off Crossroads, so they don't have Shieldred, which is good to know. Still going to keep the stop during the upkeep, though, because, you know, in general, it's not a bad idea to just play with stops on the upkeep with this deck, because you can end up in situations where you seek New Knowledge and hit a Cyber Siphoner that's 2 mana, and then if you don't have a stop, it will just skip straight through your draw step, and then it might go back up to 4 mana again, so... Okay, Mox Sapphire, that's actually a pretty sick draw here, because we can go Kitten, play the Sapphire, blink the Prophetic Prism next turn. So here I'm just going to name Unlicensed Hearse straight away here. That's the main card that we brought it in for, so might as well preemptively name it while we have the mana. Now we could have waited until we play the Kitten to use it for an additional blink, but next turn we kind of want to... Okay, they have cut down for the Oracle. But yeah, next turn we want to play Kitten and protect it if we can. And I can't really see anytime soon where we have an opportunity to play... Well, I guess if we untap, we could play the Pithing Needle, but I'd rather get it in place sooner. So I'm going to set a stop during the opponent's main phase 2. I don't want it to let it go to the end step because they'll get the Braids trigger, so I want to bounce it beforehand. Okay, land is perfect. That's great. Because now we can go Kitten, Mox Sapphire. If we didn't draw land, we could have gone Kitten, Mox Sapphire, but they could try and kill Kitten in response to the Sapphire trigger. Whereas now, even if they have cut down, we can just consider... Okay, Arena's giving away they don't have anything. But had they had another cut down, we could have protected the Kitten anyway. And now I feel in a pretty good spot here. I'm going to set a stop during the upkeep again, just in case they have Shieldred. But now we have 2 mana and 2 instants, so they would need 2 instant speed removal spells. Well, 3 I guess, if we played really carefully. So again, you know, they could have 2 cut downs here, but we know they didn't have anything last turn. So even if they drew cut down for turn, we can still bounce the Braids and have Consider up to protect the Kitten here. So again, I think I want to bounce the Braids before it goes to their end step. We'll blink the Wedding Invitation, draw a card. Oh, well, they do have... Did they draw... Oh, wow, they must have drawn that for turn, okay. So we can just play the Consider, bounce the Kitten here. And just got to hope that we draw more instants. Okay, we'll keep the Mox because that'll draw us an extra card and just produce an extra mana for us. And the nice thing about Prophetic Prism here is we can play the Mox, draw a card off the Kitten ability, and then we can use the Prism to turn that into blue mana. Okay, another instant is perfect. Now we have a guaranteed way to protect the Kitten going forwards. Oh, okay. That was actually kind of risky because they could have had land into Rite of Oblivion there. But, I mean, we'd be pretty... They'd have to be pretty lucky to get all of that, so... Still reckon it was probably the right play what I did there. Okay, Ottawara is interesting. Definitely going to play the Oracle here. You know, this now we've got Kitten and I'm pretty confident that we can protect it. Putting the Power 9 into our deck again is pretty nice because Moxes are just good draws here. They just produce mana and extra draws as well. So I like Ottawara here as well as an additional way to protect Kitten. Oh wow, okay. Right, I'm very lucky I've got Otawara here, because Rona's Vortex can't bounce your own creatures, but we can save the Kitten here with Otawara. And now they're just sweeping their own board, basically. So next turn we can just play the Kitten again, and we still have the Rona's Vortex to protect it as well. So they get a card from the Cursebound Witch Spellbook. Okay, sweet. So we draw a land, which isn't great. I think just going to play the Kitten, and I think I'm going to hold on to this landing because in case we draw Seek New Knowledge, that's a, you know, if we get 2 good hits off the Seek New Knowledge, we can just put the land back. I mean, again, since we're going to be drawing a card off the Seek New Knowledge, maybe that's not. Oh no. Okay, I mean, I think that just single-handedly wins them the game pretty much. That is like the one card out of the spellbook that we just can't beat. Yeah, okay. So that was pretty unfortunate because had they hit literally anything else off the spellbook, I think we're pretty favoured to win this game. But now, because they have Cruel Reality, we just can't beat that because we don't swarm the board with multiple creatures. Every creature we have in play is really important. You know, similarly, the deck is kind of weak to Liliana of the Veil for a similar reason. We're not very good against Edict effects, really. But that's another reason why I like having Pithing Needle in the sideboard, because against black decks running Liliana, you can bring in Pithing Needle, name the Liliana early, and then just stop them, you know, playing Liliana and making you sack your Displacer Kitten. So, I mean, I'm going to play it out, but I'm pretty sure we can't beat this. We would need to hit, like... I mean, even Time Warp wouldn't help us here because it triggers during our upkeep. So if we take an extra turn, we just take an extra 5 damage. So, yeah, that's kind of unfortunate. Yeah, okay. So Cruel Reality single-handedly beat us that game. Which is kind of scary because, you know, especially if they have Reezug as well, that does give them a lot of looks off the spellbook. And after that game, they know how good Cruel Reality is against me, so I imagine they're going to prioritise getting it if they do get another one next game. But I mean, having said that, they do need 7 mana for it, and we can end up... Actually, I was going to say we can end up with some game states where we have multiple Siphoners in play or multiple Oracles, but that's only going to last so many turns. This deck isn't very good at getting a high number of creatures in play to sack to something like a Cruel Reality, so I think we just got to hope they don't find it, basically. Ha. This hand is very tempting to keep because we have 2 Considers to find us lands, but there's also a pretty big fail rate. You know, Seek New Knowledge without many lands is kind of a dead card anyway. I think I'm just going to mull because I think the hand has too high a fail rate. This, on the other hand, is much like hitting land drops consistently with this deck is super important. So keeping a 1-lander even with 2 Considers is risky when we need to hit, you know, our 5th land drop ideally. So we'll lead on the island here, and then we can Seek New Knowledge on turn 2, Oracle on 3, and hopefully we just hit more lands going forwards. I mean, to be fair, we are running 24 lands and a lot of ways to draw cards, so chances are that we are going to hit lands on curve. But yeah, I think keeping 1-landers with this deck is pretty risky, even going second with Considers. Probably not worth it. Okay, so we drew another land, which is really nice. A slow start from the opponent is always good to see as well. Okay, we'll put an Oracle of the Alpha back here for sure. We don't really need a second one. And another land is great here. We'll play the Oracle. I mean, it is kind of sketchy because we don't have anything good to blink with the Kitten yet, but with, you know, the Prophetic Prism, the Wedding Announcements, we do have a, and obviously Siphon as well, we do have a pretty high density of stuff that works well with the Kitten. Oh no, they've got the hearse. Okay, well we need to draw... I mean, to be honest, we don't need Pithing Needle immediately because... Oh, okay, Prophetic Prism is nice. Now we have something good to blink with Kitten. I was going to say, you know, we can set up Kitten plus Prism here, which doesn't care about the graveyard at all. Ha! I mean, that's a sick draw, obviously, but I think I want to wait until we have Kitten in play to play that. Maybe that's greedy, but I think I'd like going Kitten on 10-5, Holding up the Rona's Vortex. I mean, Rona's Vortex is kind of sketchy because if they don't play a creature, we can't actually cast it. So I kind of hope they just play a creature here. That would be best case scenario. Okay, Lae'zel. I mean, Lae'zel is obviously pretty bad to target with bounce spells, but at least it gives us a target. And now we can go Kitten, hold up Rona's Vortex. Hope they don't have 2 removal spells. We could Time Walk now. I don't know. I think I prefer going Kitten Vortex though. Or Kitten hold up Vortex. And then we force the opponent to have 2 removal spells. And if they don't, we get to untap, cast Time Walk, draw another card off the Prism. Because the weakness of Prism over Siphoner is you can draw dead if you hit multiple lands. Especially if you've already cast an Oracle. You know, well, I guess Oracle with when you have Kitten Prism isn't bad because any Moxes you draw can trip you as well, but there is a chance that you just draw lands off the Prism. So holding onto the Time Walk just gets us an extra card and lowers the chance of that happening. I'm going to set a stop during the upkeep here just in case they... I was going to say just in case they play Shieldred. I would rather use Vortex during the upkeep. I guess if they're stuck on 4 mana, it doesn't make a difference, but either way, we're losing the Kitten here, which kind of sucks. Oh, okay, that's obviously a sick draw. So now we have a backup Kitten. That was kind of fortunate. Now we don't need the upkeep stop anymore. Oh, wow, okay. That was also a good draw. So now we can play the Kitten. Oh, I would love for the opponent to use Unlicensed Hearse now. Okay, sick. So we can go Lotus now, bounce the Prism, and then if we can draw a Cyber Siphoner here, we just beat Unlicensed Hearse. And we have a lot of mana. And, you know, quite a few draws. If we draw something decent here, if we draw a Siphoner, we just win on the spot, basically. So, really, really want to see a Siphoner here now. They should not have used the Hearse then. There was basically no reason for them to do that. Okay, so we really need to draw a non-creature spell here. Okay, that's a pretty good one. So now we get 4 looks at a Siphoner. I mean, even if we don't, drawing 4 cards is pretty sick. You know, if we can just set up protecting the Siphoner. Oh my god, there it is. Okay, I was just thinking I should have gone into full control mode. Okay, I mean, it doesn't really matter. Because if I should have gone into full control mode and then flashed in the Siphoner for 2 mana before I drew the 3. But it doesn't really matter here. We just get the Time Walk back here. So opponent definitely misplayed there with the Hearse, but I think we would have still been in a good position anyway. Yeah, okay, sweet.
Okay, so we're going first here, and yeah, I think this hand looks fine, you know. Obviously, we don't have any of the combo pieces, but we've got Seek New Knowledge and Prophetic Prism to try and dig us towards them. You know, Seek New Knowledge in particular is really good at finding your combo pieces, and Prophetic Prism is great because it means that if we find Displacer Kitten, we already have something to blink it with, so... Let's see what the opponent's on here. So lead with Island, could be a number of things. Okay, is it? Interesting. I'm not sure what that could be, maybe a control deck or something. So we'll just pass here, hold open the Seek New Knowledge. Yeah, the great thing about Seek New Knowledge is this deck actively wants to draw a ton of lands, and Seek New Knowledge is a really good way to mitigate that. Oh, okay, they're also on Oracle of the Alpha, interesting. So I assume if they're blue-red, they're probably running Cyber Siphoner and Fable of the Mirror Breaker, if I had to guess. Actually, I don't think we want too many bounce spells against them. I don't mind bouncing Oracle of the Alpha, you know, if they don't have... Okay, we'll keep Siphoner, but yeah, if the opponent doesn't have Displacer Kitten, I actually think it's bad for them to get more triggers on Oracle of the Alpha, because it will basically just fill their deck with Moxen, which are just bad draws. So I really don't mind bouncing Oracle of the Alpha, but outside of that, you know, if they play like a Cyber Siphoner, that's not a card that I really want to be bouncing. Oh wow, okay, yeah, Wandering Mind is another example of a card that I really don't want to bounce, so I'm happier to put back a bounce spell there and just make sure that we keep hitting land drops here. But again, yeah, I'm not too upset bouncing Oracle of the Alpha because... okay. I mean, like I said, I'm not too thrilled about bouncing Wandering Mind, but this is preventing them getting an extra activation, and it means that they have to spend a turn recasting it, or spending 3 mana recasting it, so it puts them further behind on tempo. So again, you know, I don't mind keeping 1 bounce spell here, but I'm not thrilled about 2. Oh wow, okay, that was a great draw. So now we can go Kitten and hold up Fading Hope to protect it. And then we've obviously already got Cyber Siphoner, so we need to play carefully this turn, but if Kitten survives this turn, I think we've got a great shot, because I think it's going to be hard for them to beat Siphoner plus Kitten unless they hit their combo. You know, they could potentially win, but if they are relying on Fable of the Mirror Breaker, we know, you know, we have 3 turns to shut it off, whereas Siphoner and Kitten, you can sort of hit out of nowhere. Oh wow, okay, they got Time Walk. That's pretty bad for us. But, I mean, again, they don't have a way to loop it currently. Again, if they're blue-red, unless they're also running Kitten, I think the only way they have of going infinite is with Fable of the Mirror Breaker. And like I said, that's like telegraphed like crazy. You can tell, because they can't start copying Siphoner until it reaches the 3rd chapter and survives a turn anyway, so... If that's what they're relying on, I'm not too worried about them hitting infinite. I think we're going to get our combo off a lot quicker than they are, if that's what they're running anyway. We'll have to see. Okay, so there you go. Consider. So again, I just want to play really cautiously around Kitten here. Okay, Mox Jet, yeah. So this is an example where they're already drawing basically like bad basic lands that aren't in their colours, because they don't have any good way to capitalise on drawing the Moxen. Okay, they're going to Planet Insistence. I think, even though this is a little bit risky, I'm going to go for it now. You know, they could have an instant speed removal spell instead. I'm going to go into full control mode here because I want to flash in the Siphoner for 2 mana. Okay, the opponent doesn't have anything, which is good. I mean, I kind of read that anyway, but that's obviously great news. Okay, we want Oracle. Now, you know, we've got Siphoner plus Kitten, and we've got two ways to protect it with the Seat New Knowledges here, so Oracle is basically the next piece of the puzzle for us winning, so having that on top is really good. They recast the Wandering Mind. Okay, they do have a removal spell now, but at least we know about it. So obviously, we're just going to pass the turn here, because if we fire off Seek New Knowledge, they're just going to Lightning Strike in response, so we'll just wait until we untap. Oh wow, they're doing it now. Okay, I mean, we'll just Seek New Knowledge in response. So we could bounce the Siphoner to get a Fading Hope, and then blink the Kitten by casting that, but I don't really want to bounce these Wandering Minds, and we don't really need the Scry because we know Oracle's on top. So I'm just gonna blink the Kitten here. Plus we could draw a Consider off the Seek New Knowledge, so I think that's probably the better line there. You know, I mean, to be honest, I guess their way of winning now is just racing us with Wandering Minds, but I'm not scared about that, especially because we know we have Oracle of the Alpha on top. So now we've got Oracle. We can put the Power 9 into our deck. Now it is kind of scary because we only have Seek New Knowledge as a way to protect. So again, I think we probably need to play a bit cautiously here, but we could tell from last turn that that Lightning Strike was the only interaction they had, because they would have killed the Kitten in response, and Arena gave away they didn't have priority anyway, so they would need to draw a removal spell for turn for us to be punished for casting Seek New Knowledge. Plus, you know, I mean, we could wait until we untap, but I'm not 100% sure. We'll see how it pans out. If they tap out, we can obviously just fire it off anyway. But yeah, a lot of this deck is just trying to balance making sure you get value off the Kitten, but not getting greedy and having Kitten killed in response when you don't have a way to protect it. Now, they don't really have good attacks because of the Oracle. So, I mean, I think in a vacuum it's the correct play to pass the turn first and go for Prophetic Prism, but since we know they didn't have anything last turn, they would have needed to draw a removal spell for the turn for us to get punished for this. Okay, we got away with it, and I think, you know, we are both combo decks, so I think if we give the opponent too much time, that's also not a good idea. We don't just want to sit around and not use any of our mana. Plus, we can snowball advantage so fast with Siphoner Kitten that it's probably worth just going for it here. Okay, we'll put the Wedding Invitation back. Mox is nice because we can just draw off it immediately. So we'll cast the Mox Jet here, and we'll bounce the Prism to draw a card. And now we're just getting way ahead of the opponent because all of our Moxes are just going to start drawing us cards. And then, since we only have Signet Knowledge as a way to protect, I'm going to fire off the Prophetic Prism here to get another instant off the Cyber Siphoner. And now even if the opponent draws a removal spell, we have 2 instants to protect Kitten. Oh, we have 3 now anyway, so yeah. Now I feel pretty good about this spot. Even though the opponent's holding on to Time Walk here, they don't, as far as I'm aware, have a way to immediately recur it unless they have a Siphoner. So I imagine they're just holding on to Time Walk to try and get a big value turn of some sort. You know, maybe they're trying to get loads of creatures in play and get an attack in. But either way, I'm not too worried about their Time Walk because they don't really have a good way to recur it. Yeah, I feel pretty confident here, you know. If we do snowball with getting loads of instants and sorceries back off the Siphoner, we can start blinking the Oracle, which then puts more Moxes into the deck, and then we can start drawing more Moxes, which will draw us more cards off the Prophetic Prism, and then that just maximizes our chances of drawing into the Time Walk. Wow, Shivan Devastator, interesting. That's not a card I was expecting. Okay, now they tell me. So yeah, kind of makes sense. They just want to go for a big attack here, I guess. Try and force damage through, because they're not going to be able to grind us on card advantage at this point. I guess they're just going to try and race. But they know we have Fading Hope, so that's not really going to work, I don't think. So we'll block the Wandering Mind here, bounce the Shivan Devastator, we'll blink the Cyber Siphoner, and then we can just get back another Fading Hope. And we'll scry. And then we can just Fading Hope the Oracle. Again, I don't really want to bounce the Wandering Minds because it will give them more looks at more stuff like Time Walk and Ancestral Recall, but I really don't mind bouncing the Oracle because, again, it's just going to fill their deck with dead cards, basically. Like, the majority of the deck. Like, I faced another Oracle of the Alpha deck recently where I was just repeatedly bouncing their Oracles to the point where they had like an 110 card deck and they were just drawing Moxes every single turn. Wow, they Time Twister. I mean, that has to be bad for them, right? Because we can just bounce these Wandering Minds and then they'll just have a completely empty board. I guess they need to try and draw removal though, right? Doesn't really matter what we keep on top here because we're going to be drawing a fresh 7 anyway. Aha, I guess I should have blinked the Oracle there because we're losing this Fading Hope in hand anyway. Yeah, I probably should have blinked the Oracle there instead of blinking the Siphoner, and then that would have maximised our chance of drawing a Time Walk or more Moxen to get more value next turn. I guess they're also potentially hoping that we don't draw an instant and they draw a removal spell for the Kitten. That also makes sense, I guess. I mean, we are close. We only have one Fading Hope here, which isn't great. Oh, wow, Ominous Traveller. Interesting. Okay, so it looks like the opponents may be trying to maximize the Moxes by drawing mana sinks like... Oh, sorry, running mana sinks like Shivan Devastator and Ominous Traveller. I'm not sure I'm a big fan of it, but it's definitely interesting. Okay, they play an Archgald of Thraben. I think the Ominous Traveller... I mean, we would love for them to tap out here so that we can just start getting value off the Kitten again. Okay, they go for Consider. And Mox Jet. I mean, that must mean they have a removal spell if they don't play the Ominous Traveller here. So we do need to play carefully, I think. Oh, they do play the Ominous Traveller. I mean, to be honest, like, even if they hadn't, I think it's fine for us to just pass back here because we have 2 Wedding Invitations which are going to be able to draw us a bunch of cards off the Kitten anyway, so... But since they played the land for the turn, they've tapped out. We can just fire off Fading Hope here and start getting even more value. So we can use the Kitten to blink the Prophetic Prism here, draw us an extra card. Then we've got the Fading Hope in the graveyard. Oh wow, okay, now we've got Ruinous Vortex as well. So yeah, I might as well use the Vortex here, just make the most of our mana. And then we can blink the Prophetic Prism again here. Okay, another Ruinous Vortex. So now we have the bounce spells to just keep them off the board. Even if they use tons of Ominous Travelers, we'll just be able to bounce everything they play. So we'll attack here, get a Scry off the Oracle of the Alpha. Okay, nice. So that's pretty good. That's a Mox, so we can play a Wedding Invitation and draw the Mox here, which is going to draw us another card. And then we draw a card off the Wedding Invitation itself. And then we can play the Mox here. Bounce the Prophetic Prism again. And then we can use the Prophetic Prism to turn this Mox into blue mana as well, which is nice. Yeah, I think we'll go Seek New Knowledge here. I mean, there's a chance that we're supposed to just hold open mana to bounce all the stuff they play, but I feel like we might as well make use of the Mox mana that we draw, because we have more than enough mana in our lands anyway. So okay, we'll just get back the Seek New Knowledge here, and then I'll fire off again. I mean, there is kind of incentive to do this now, because if we draw Time Walk, we just win the game immediately, but we also don't want to use up too much of our mana during our turn so that we don't have enough interaction during the opponent's turn, because that's one way you can get punished. So I think this is a good point to stop. You know, holding open 6 mana feels safe. You know, this definitely feels like it's our game to lose now, so we don't want to get too greedy. But yeah, a lot of the balancing act in this deck is trying to figure out when is it good to go for the combo. You know, especially if you're in a situation where you could die on the backswing. Sometimes it's better to just go all in and use all of your cantrips to try and find the Time Walk. But a lot of the time it's better, especially when you have Kitten plus Siphoner, just play it safe. Make sure you hold open bounce spells or counter spells during the opponent's turn, and then once the coast is clear, you can start firing off your cantrips at the end of the opponent's turn and start digging for your stuff that way. That's probably the safest way to play it anyway. Okay, so they are running Fable, not a huge surprise. I assume they're also running Cyber Siphoner if they're running Fable here. Okay, they play Ominous Traveler. I mean, even if they get a bunch of cheap creatures off the Traveler, I don't think they're going to be able to stop us, or like outscale us from just playing bounce spells every single, well, you know, just keep looping bounce spells basically. Okay, they got Dominating Vampire, which does give their 2/2 token haste, but I mean we were planning to bounce that anyway, so we've just got to remember to not, like, we just got to remember to bounce that before combat starts, or they could potentially get a treasure, which, you know, that would be really stupid to give them. Okay, they play Ominous Traveler again. See what else they play here. Okay, and the Consider. So yeah, I think we're just bouncing all their stuff here, because even if we bounce all 3 creatures, we still have enough stuff in hand to protect Kitten, even if they have a removal spell. And they only have 1 open mana at the moment, so again, at this point, I think we're just digging for any Moxes or Time Walk, obviously. So because of that, I think I'm happy to start bouncing the Oracle here, because that's going to maximise our chances of drawing Moxes, which is going to draw us more cards and give us more mana for later turns, and also obviously drawing Time Walk as well. So we'll just use Ruinous Vortex here. And again, I think I'm happy to just blink the Oracle, put more Moxes in the deck, because we're at the point now where I'm really confident that Kitten's going to live. And so, at this point, we can just, you know, put a ton of Moxes in the deck, and then if we draw the Moxes, they just draw us a card off the Prophetic Prisms, and that just gives us access to more mana and maximises our chances of finding the Time Walk. So we draw a Mox, which is nice. Just trying to think whether we attack first or not, because I quite like going for Time Twister here when we have so much mana. Definitely want to play the Mox first though, and since I'm going to go for the Time Twister, I'm going to blink the Oracle again to try and maximise our chance of drawing Moxen or Time Warp. And then we'll just go for Time Twister, we'll blink the Oracle again. And now we should be able to have a huge turn here, I think. Yeah, okay, sweet, there we go. So we got the Time Walk already. So that's just going to win us the game, but we can kind of have fun, just go nuts here with all the Black Lotuses, drawing us cards and stuff. Get the Time Twister back, play the Black Lotus, blink the Prophetic Prism, draw a card, play another Black Lotus, blink the Cyber Siphoner, get back the Time Walk. So yeah, this is when the deck just kind of goes crazy. Might as well blink the Oracle again. You know, put more Power 9 in the deck, go for another Mox. Blink the Siphoner, get another Time Walk. Play the Time Walk, and then we can just flash in another Siphoner in a second and then just kill the opponent anyway. But oh yeah, this is another great thing with Kitten as well. You can also use the Kitten to blink the Moxen, so even if you don't have Prophetic Prism, if you have a blue Mox, like the Mox Sapphire, you can untap it with the Displacer Kitten essentially. Which sometimes, you know, there are certain situations where you have Ancestral Recall, Mox Sapphire, and you're drawing more Moxen. That's a way for you to continuously produce blue mana. So this is definitely the exact matchup where we want the Unlicensed Hearse. Trimming on the Rona's Vortex, because the only card that we really want to be bouncing is like Fable of the Mirror Breaker tokens or Oracle of the Alpha. So the bounce spells do lose a little bit of utility, but as you saw last game, we do want to have a fairly high density so that we can set up Kitten, Siphoner, 2 bounce spells to just bounce everything the opponent plays. Plus they are running stuff like Shivan Devastator that we want to bounce as well, so don't want to go too low on the bounce spells here. So this hand looks pretty decent, you know, we obviously don't have any instants yet, but Prism on 2 into Oracle on 3, and we already have Kitten and Siphoner. So as long as we draw some instants at some point, we're in a pretty good spot, I think. So we go Prism here. Opponent leads on the Ominous Traveller, which, again, we're not too worried about. That's a very slow engine for them. Okay, Oracle is a little bit more threatening, I guess. But we have our own to just stonewall it. So still no instants, which is a little bit concerning, but we should be able to start scrying off the Oracle if we want to. And we already have, you know, Prism, Kitten, Siphoner, so as soon as we draw an instant, we're in a really good spot. So let's see what the opponent does here. Okay, Aether Channeler. So this is a card that I was running in loads of my builds of this deck, and I think it's really strong generically, but I don't think it's as resilient and as useful as Prophetic Prism or Wedding Invitation, because it's just so vulnerable to interaction, and it's a mana more expensive. You know, being able to go Prism on 2 into Oracle on 3 is huge, and the other downside of it is it's not that good against the super aggressive decks. Like the very first builds I had of this deck were running 4 Aether Channeler, 4 Cyber Siphoner as the main payoffs for running Displacer Kitten, and it is sick if you can set up Aether Channeler plus Displacer Kitten. That is really good because, you know, you can just keep blinking Channeler to either draw a card like you do with Prophetic Prism or bounce stuff, which is really good, you know, specifically against stuff that's otherwise hard to deal with like Unlicensed Hearse. But I just felt like it was too fragile compared to the 2 mana artifacts that can't be killed by creature removal. And I also felt like that's a sick draw, by the way, because now we can, you know, we're not worried about interaction here. We can go Sapphire into Prism. If the opponent has interaction for this Kitten, we still have a backup one in hand. But yeah, my issue with Channeler was that, first of all, it's just vulnerable to interaction, and Prophetic Prism and the Wedding Announcement aren't, or Wedding Invitation, sorry. And also, I just felt like it wasn't good enough against the super aggro decks either. You know, if, like I said, if you can set it up with Kitten, it's sick, but I just felt like it wasn't strong enough against Mono Red, it wasn't strong enough against Rakdos Anvil. I feel like Circuit Mender is just better in those matchups, and those are the worst matchups for the deck. Like, Aether Channeler makes the good matchups better, whereas Circuit Mender actually addresses the bad matchups. So that's the reason I've got Mender in the sideboard instead of Aether Channeler, basically. So opponent blinks the Channeler, bouncing our Kitten, which is fine. You know, they're trying to get ahead on tempo here, I guess. But, assuming we draw some instance at some point, I think it's going to be really hard for them to break through. Okay, that is an Ancestral Recall though. That's pretty good. Okay, there's another Sapphire, so that at least draws us a card off the Kitten here. And it being blue is huge as well. I mean, we've got Prism if it wasn't blue anyway, but... Wow, where are my instants, man? This is annoying. I think I might attack with the Oracle here just to scry. Oh wow, okay. I mean, we should win next turn then, unless the opponent has like counter spells or has a way to loop. I mean, that's a pretty sick sorcery to get as the first one of the game. So yeah, just gotta hope the opponent doesn't win and taps out, or just doesn't have counter spells or something. Because yeah, we just Time Walk, bounce Prophetic Prism, flash in the Siphoner, cast Time Walk again, then we should just be good to win, hopefully. Okay, so they got Fable. I mean, even if they have Negate, we can just flash in the Siphoner to get back the Time Walk anyway, so... Okay, they got Consider. Okay, so it looks like we should be good here then. Okay, they attack, get the scry. I mean, is there anything for one blue that stops us here? I don't think so. Not that I can think of anyway. I guess if they had some way to kill Kitten, because we don't have a way to protect it right now, but I guess we got a backup one in hand anyway, so... So we'll cast the Time Walk, bounce the Prism here. Flash in the Siphoner, get back the Time Walk. And bounce the Prism again. Play Wedding Invitation. I mean, I guess since we don't have another sorcery, we could run out of gas if we literally just keep drawing lands for the rest of the game, but I think that's pretty unlikely. Okay, sick. Now we're like guaranteed to win. All we needed was one more instant just to loop. So I'll cast another Oracle just so we've got another attacker. Because if the opponent makes us play it out, that just speeds our clock up by, you know, twice as fast. Now I can start blinking the Oracle because we're just going to be drawing a ton of cards off the Ancestral Recall here. Okay, Mox is good. Get him for 2, and then we can just cast the Recall, get back the Time Walk, draw 3, get 2 Moxes as well, which is nice, and then we get to blink the Siphoner, get back the Recall. Might as well play these Moxes out as well. And then as soon as we bounce spells, we can start just clearing up their board as well, so we can start attacking with the creatures on the ground. Not that we really need to, we could just attack in the air a bunch with the oracles, but... So normally it's not a good idea to bounce Oracle. You should only bounce Oracle if you're in a spot like this, where you're basically just never going to run out of instants to loop with the Siphoner. Because if you don't have Kitten, putting Moxes in your deck is actually bad, like I've said a few times. Okay, so now we got 5 tons stored up. Discard a land. Okay, another Oracle's nice. get in for 4. Yeah, now we can just close the game out. But yeah, you do need to play relatively quickly, because if the opponent does make you play it out, you do sometimes get low on clock, because even if you're playing quickly, the deck requires a lot of game actions to actually get there. Might as well just chuck another Time Walk in there. Blink the Oracle. Play another Mox. Blink the Oracle again. Go for another Ancestral. Get back the Time Walk. I mean, this is a pretty stacked hand. Put another Power 9 into the deck. Get in for 6. No, might as well actually just close the game out now. But yeah, it's always fun in spots like this. Hey, sick. We got that. Nice. Okay, so we're going second here. And hi, yeah, this hand looks decent. Got early interaction, Prism on 2, Siphoner at the top end. Let's see what the opponent's on here. Okay, Shambling Guard. So again, could be a number of decks here. Have to see what else they play. Definitely not interested in using Rona's Vortex on the Shambling Ghast, obviously. Okay, they play a Swamp and attack, sure. So we'll just play the Prism on 2 here. Really nice to get into play early, just because then when we do draw Displacer Kitten later in the game, even if they kill Siphoner, it just gives us a good target to use. Okay, second Siphoner is not bad. Okay, looks like the opponent has something here. Okay, they got Deadly Dispute, sure. So that is a lot of ramp pretty quickly. I'm going to set a stop during my upkeep just in case they play Shieldred here. We don't want to give them extra damage unnecessarily. Which they do. Okay, I'm glad I set the stop then. Kind of crazy. I swear they said they were going to change so that whenever the opponent plays Shieldred, you get a stop before your draw step, but it hasn't done that as far as I'm aware. So we bounce the Shieldred before our draw step to prevent the 2 damage. I'm going to set another stop here because we're going to seek New Knowledge, and there's a chance that we don't hit any instants, which would mean that Cyber Siphoner could be 2 mana, so we could flash it in during the upkeep to rebuy Rona's Vortex before we draw if they play Shieldred again. And also we could potentially hit a bounce spell off the Seek New Knowledge that we might want to use if they play Shieldred anyway. Okay, so they just play Fable here, sure. So we Seek New Knowledge, definitely going to put back one of the Wedding Invitations. And then, I've got quite a few options here. I think I'm pretty interested in... Well, we definitely want to bounce this 2-2. We don't want to let them get the treasure. And I think I'm going to do it now just because I don't want them to get value off Deadly Dispute if they have it. You know, if we wait till their turn and then do it, they could just sack it to Deadly Dispute. And then again, I'm going to set a stop during my upkeep just so that we can bounce Shieldred before we draw if we get... Okay, so it looks like they're on red-black mid-range, I have to guess. So yeah, we'll Seek New Knowledge here. I also want to set a stop because... Okay, yeah, exactly what happened here. There's a chance that Cyber Siphoner costs 2 mana, in which case, you know, before our draw step we want to flash it in. get back the Rona's Vortex, bounce the Shieldred before we draw for the turn. Because if we wait, not only do we take the 2 damage, but there's a chance Cyber Siphoning goes up to 4 mana, and that just makes this line completely unplayable. Okay, so we draw a Fading Hope. I think I'm just going to play Wedding Invitation here just to make the most of our mana. Oh, that's a great draw. So, again, I'm going to set a stop during the upkeep, but I doubt I'm going to use it. You know, even if they play Shieldred, I think I'm just going to wait until we play the Displacer Kitten here, because that is the only way we have of protecting it right now. Okay, missing a land is a bit annoying there, but we can get Displacer Kitten into play here, and then we have Fading Hope as a way to protect it, which is really nice. So again, just got to hope the opponent doesn't have 2 removal spells here. We're going to play very carefully. We're only going to use Fading Hope in response to removal. Not going to risk it, because if we get to untap, we have Wedding Invitation to trigger it, which is going to start drawing us more cards, so... Okay, so they are going to use removal on the Kitten here. Oh, wow, they use it on the Siphoner instead. I mean, that seems pretty greedy, because now we can bounce the Shieldred and get value off the Siphoner. Had they targeted the Displacer Kitten, we wouldn't have been able to get this card back from the graveyard, because we'd have had to blink the Kitten instead. Although I do get why they did it, because they can steal the Siphoner, copy it with Reflection and get back Invoke Despair, but they got pretty punished for that. And now I think we're in a great spot. I mean, we only have Rona's Vortex as a way to protect the Kitten, so we could have played the Wedding Invitation here, but I like keeping my options open of being able to flash this Siphoner in if we need to. Oh wow. So I'm very glad we did, because this is a spot, this is the exact sort of spot where we would want to flash in the Siphoner. So now we can go into full control mode, bounce the Reflection with Rona's Vortex, blink the Siphoner, and then in full control mode, before any of that resolves, we can then flash in the second Siphoner so that we can sacrifice one of the Siphoners to the Invoke Despair without losing both of them. And then we can get back Seek New Knowledge. We can blink the other Siphoner here. Get back the Fading Hope. Bounce the Reflection so they can't copy stuff. And then we can just sacrifice one of the Siphoners, and then we still have Kitten Siphoner up, and we have Seek New Knowledge and Fading Hope here. So since they only have 1 mana available, we can freely block here, use Seek New Knowledge to bounce the Cyber Siphoner, and then just hold up Fading Hope in case they have like a cut down or something. Okay, they just scoop it up, sure. So that is kind of scary, because Invoke Despair is the sort of card, you know, sacrifice abilities are the sort of card that can get around Kitten's ability to protect itself. We definitely want Pithing Needle here, because they're definitely the sort of deck that I could see bringing in Baconia or Unlicensed Hearse, not to mention they could have Planeswalkers as well. Just trying to think what the best cards to cut here are. Like, Rona's Vortex is good. Actually, I think I probably want more Rona's Vortex, because we've seen Shieldred. They could very well have Planeswalkers, so the ability to deal with them is important as well. But yeah, I think Pithing Needle in these sorts of matchups is really important. Because not only are they running stuff like... well, they could be running stuff like Unlicensed Hearse or Viconia, but they're also running Fable, so we can name Reflection of Kiki Jiki with Pithing Needle as well, which can be pretty important as well. So this hand's nice. We got Prophetic Prism on 2 into Oracle on 3, which is always a nice curve out. And then that kind of enables us, all we need to do at that point is try and dig for a Kitten, and then a Siphoner, and we're good to go from that point. Okay, so they Deadly Dispute the Cursebound Witch, which is kind of scary, because Cursebound Witch, there are a couple of spells in the spellbook that are very good against us, but I'm kind of happy that they use it early, because it's usually the more expensive ones that are good against us, the ones that, you know, deal damage every turn or force you to sack something every turn. So we'll play the Prism on 2 here. They attack with the Cursebound Witch. Oh, you got Obnixus. Okay, that is pretty scary. That is a good card against us, because we don't have great ways to pressure it, and we don't really want to be discarding cards either. You know, we generally rely on having a high amount of stuff in our hand. I think we just have to run out the Oracle here, just as a way to pressure them. And then I'm going to set a stop during the upkeep just so we can bounce Shieldred again if they have it. Okay, they don't have Shieldred. Oh, wow, okay. I mean, Liliana is even better against us, so even though I normally name Unlicensed Hearse in the dark, now we know they're running Liliana, we absolutely have to name Liliana on Unlicensed Hearse, because that is the exact sort of card that's really strong against Displacer Kitten. So in future games, or even in this game obviously, but if this goes to a game 3 and I'm naming something in the dark with Pithing Needle, it's definitely going to be Liliana now we've seen it. Thankfully we can just freely bounce the token copy of Ob Nixilis with Rona's Vortex, and I'm actually pretty tempted to bounce the real one as well, because for them to make it, you know, play it again with an additional copy, they would need to have a creature and then immediately sacrifice it, which at least, you know, if they take their turn doing that, that at least slows them down quite a bit. So I'm just going to pitch a land to the plus here. Well, they pitch Infernal Grasp, okay, interesting. And Plunder, okay, we're going to Seek New Knowledge in response. Ooh, okay, Ancestral Recall is perfect. That is exactly the sort of card I want to see here, because that's just going to undo all the discard that they've just done. Now, we are going to give them a card off the decline, but I don't think we've got an option here, really. We have to do it. Okay, they only hit a Mox Emerald. That's good for us. Even though we've seen the Jund land, I don't think they're running actual green mana, because I think they're running the Jund Triome to enable them to run red and Invoke Despair in the same deck. Graveyard Trespasser can be an issue. I mean, it definitely applies a lot of pressure and obviously does hit our graveyard a little bit, but it's not as... it doesn't stop us from comboing like Unlicensed Hearse does, but the fact that it applies a lot of pressure is problematic here. Now, I'm kind of hoping that they minus the Liliana here. I would really like to just get it off the board. Okay, they plus. This is a tough decision what to discard here, because I kind of want to keep Consider just so we can dig towards more stuff. And I kind of want to keep Rona's Vortex as a way to deal with Liliana if the game goes on. Okay, so they got Black Cat off the spellbook, so I presume they go Black Cat, sack it to Ob Nixilis, so we have to go Rona's Vortex now so we don't get blown out by that. So I'm just going to discard the... Actually, hold on, let me... Oh, no, wait, I didn't mean to do that. Oh, for God's sake. Okay, I mean... we weren't likely to win this game anyway, but that punt just completely messed everything up. So what I meant to do there was bounce the Trespasser, pay for the ward tax, but then I thought, oh, hold on a second, I should probably wait before I do that, but I'd forgotten that I'd already played the bounce spell. I mean, that was obviously a punt on my part, but we were probably going to lose that game anyway, so just, yeah, that was a bit stupid, but going into game 3, I think Pithing Needle naming Liliana seems really important, because that, I feel like that is their best card against us, and we have it in our opening hand. Perfect. Okay, that's really, really good. So yeah, we definitely want to name Liliana here, because even though they've got Ob Nixilis, they could have Unlicensed Hearse, but I think we have a better chance of beating Unlicensed Hearse than we do beating Liliana. Especially because we have Wedding Invitation and Displacer Kitten already. You know, we can fairly easily outgrind somebody with an Unlicensed Hearse just with Kitten and Wedding Invitation, but Liliana is very, very difficult for us to beat. So I'll run out the Wedding Invitation here. Like, we could play Pithing Needle on 1, but I think it's more important to make sure that we're just curving out our lands, and then if we have a spot on the curve free, we're just going to cast it. Plunder's annoying. I think we just have to give them a card here and hope it's not great. Okay, another Kitten's interesting. So I think I'm just going to play Pithing Needle now, especially going into their turn 3. And I'm just going to name Liliana. Because that is definitely the hardest card for us to beat. Okay, they got Trespasser. Pass the turn. Okay, stick. Another land is really good. Even though I really don't like playing Kitten out on turn 4 normally, since we really don't want it to go to night for the Trespasser, and we have a second copy in hand, I think I'm going to do it here. Yeah, they do have a removal spell. That does use up 2 of their mana, and now next turn, now the next Kitten is more likely to live because we've already drawn out 1 of their removal spells. Plus, their clock would have been a fair bit faster had it gone to night, and Trespasser, you know, starts dealing 4 every turn, starts exiling 2 cards from the graveyard, makes it harder for us to combo as well, so... Okay, so I want to play very cautiously here, as to not have this Kitten killed, because our whole game plan just basically revolves around keeping this Kitten alive now. Because this is the whole thing with this deck, right? You get ahead on tempo in the early game, and then once you have your engines set up online with Kitten, you can start, you know, immediately getting back a lot of card advantage. So I'm going to attack with the Kitten here because there's no way I'm blocking the Trespasser here. I want to keep the Otawara in hand as a way to pay for the ward tax, so that we can actually use these the bounce spells in our hand. I think we can afford to take 4 here. I don't want to, you know, if I cast a Rona's Vortex and then they have 2 removal spells, we're in trouble. Okay, perfect. Now that's a much more appealing target for our bounce spells. So we can fire off the Fading Hope. Even if they have a removal spell in response, we still have the Rona's Vortex that we can use on the Trespasser as well. And now we can start clawing back some card advantage here. Okay, they have Deadly Dispute. That's nice because it'll flip it back to day as well, which will mean the Trespasser's doing less damage, which is nice. Okay, sweet. Consider's good. Now we can fire it off and still have Rona's Vortex up to protect the Displacer Kitten here, which is really good. Okay, gonna bin the land, just looking for more action here, I think. Rona's Vortex is really annoying here because if I fire it off and they have a removal spell afterwards, we don't have a way to protect the Kitten. Okay, Fading Hope's nice. Now we do have a way to protect the Kitten. And I mean, we could attack because there's nowhere. I mean, there is a theoretical world where I chump block with the Kitten and then bounce it in response, but I think that's so unlikely. So we could Vortex now to stop it flipping back to night. But then we're kind of opening ourselves up to 2 removal spells because... Oh well, they pitched 2 Lily on it. Okay, I'm very glad that we named that with Pithing Needle. But yeah, if I go Vortex now... Oh, maybe we're getting punished for attacking with the Displacer Kitten. But yeah, what I was trying to say is if I Vortex the Trespasser during my turn, I guess we could Fading Hope our own Kitten, but they could punish us with 2 removal spells. So I'm going to start with a Vortex on one of their tokens here. Bounce the Invitation, draw a card. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it was probably stupid for me to attack in the first place because we're never going to race in this matchup. Our whole game plan revolves around just trying to set up a lock with Kitten and then try and win with infinite turns. I don't think we're ever really racing a Graveyard Trespasser, so I probably shouldn't have attacked, but since we have so many bounce spells in hand, I don't think it's too much of an issue here, really. So I definitely want to keep Siphoner, and I definitely want to keep a backup Kitten as well, because, you know, it's just insurance now. If they do find a way to kill our first one, having a backup is huge. Okay, they Deadly Dispute, which is fine. Now I am worried about my life total here because they do have Obnixus, they do have Invoke Despair, so I think I also want to bounce the Trespasser here. I don't want to go down to 5 unnecessarily. Then we get to bounce the Invitation again, draw another card. I think I'm going to discard the land here. Maybe I'm supposed to discard one of the Siphoners, but I don't want to put a creature into the graveyard to fuel the Trespasser. You know, that's a way for them to deal extra damage. So now they're tapped out, we can just go for Fading Hope, and then I'm going to set a stop during the upkeep so that if we don't draw an instant now, we can flash in the Siphoner during our upkeep, which is really nice, and then we have Siphoner plus Kitten online again. So flash in the Siphoner now, and then what do we want to get back here? Probably a Seek New Knowledge. Problem if we get a Fading Hope or a Rona's Vortex is that's conditional on there being stuff that we want to bounce on the battlefield. You know, if the opponent does use a removal spell, even if we have Fading Hope, we're kind of forced to bounce one of our own spells to protect the Kitten, which isn't ideal. Whereas Seek New Knowledge, if they do have a removal spell, we just cast it in response and bounce the Kitten off the Kitten trigger. So Fable flips. Okay, they plunder. I think I want to give, like, I don't really want to give them a card here, but I don't want to fire off Seek New Knowledge now and them have a removal spell in response, and I don't want to discard Siphoner or Kitten here, so I think I'm just going to risk declining. Okay, so, I mean, they've only got 1 mana, and Arena's giving away they don't have anything, so I'm just going to fire off the Seek New Knowledge now, get back the Fading Hope they're trying to exile. And then I think at this point I don't need the extra Siphoner. The only reason I didn't discard it earlier was because I don't want to put it into the graveyard for them to be able to deal direct damage to us off the Trespasser triggers. Oh, well, they had an extra land, okay. I mean, Arena's still giving away they don't have anything. I mean, I think this is the biggest mistake that most people make at top level on Arena, is they just don't set stops when they don't have anything. Because so much of my decision making is based on whether the opponent has something, and if you don't set stops, it's so easy to tell when Arena's giving away you don't have any interaction. Like, there would probably have been so many spots in this game where I would be scared to develop if it looked like the opponent had something, if that makes sense. So I'm going to get back Rona's Vortex here, just because we already have a Fading Hope. It'd be quite nice to have a way to answer Planeswalkers if they play one. Like an Obnixilis or something. Or a bigger creature, you know. We don't have any black mana yet, but there's always a chance that we draw the blue-black Dual Land or a Prophetic Prism. So I'm going to lead on the Seek New Knowledge. I think I have enough mana here where I can afford to do something during the main phase. Okay, nice. We can put a Scythe in the back. And now we have Oracle. So now, even though only having 3 mana for protecting Kitten is a little bit sketchy, I think it's worth it to get Oracle in place so that we can start, you know, hoping to close the game out, trying to find that Time Warp. Okay, opponent plays a Cursebound Witch. Okay, they do have an Obnixilis. And that is pretty scary because, like I said earlier, I am a bit worried about my life total. I think the way I'm losing this game is to something like, you know, Invoke Despair into Invoke Despair, or creatures going into the graveyard and them draining me off Graveyard Trespasser, because we are down to 9 and we don't have Circuit Mender in the deck, so we don't have any ways to gain life. So if we go too low, that is one. Well, I think that's pretty much the only way that we're going to lose this game. I think we can afford to go down to 7. I'm not sure about this second one though. I think I'm just going to pitch the Seek New Knowledge here. Okay, so both the hits off the plunders were basic islands, which is really good to know. Okay, they take the Rona's Vortex, that's fine. I think I'm fine to just block here because we, you know, they've only got 2 mana open, and again, Arena's giving away they don't have anything, so that's fine. But even if they did have something, I think we have enough cards to protect our board here. So we can bounce the token Obnixilis, and then we can just bounce the 2/2 and the Reflection here, and then we can just attack down the Obnixilis next turn. And since Arena's giving away the opponent doesn't have anything here, we can also, you know, we don't have to worry about instant speed interaction during our turn. So we're guaranteed to kill the Obnixilis here, which is huge. Because again, you know, the main worry in this game is that we lose to more direct damage. So we bounce the Reflection here. Going to keep the Mox on top because we can just draw. You know, we can just turn it into an extra card off the Wedding Invitation. Going to bottom a land here because we are, you know, I am worried about multiple Invoke Despairs. We can't really play around that, so I do really want to try and find Time Warp pretty quickly now if we can. Oh wow, Lotus is a great draw here. So now we bounce the Wedding Invitation. And now we have access to a ton of mana here. So, I think I'm going to lead on Consider. And I'm thinking about potentially blinking Oracle of the Alpha. Probably a bit too greedy at this point. Get back a Seek New Knowledge. Okay, don't need another Oracle. Think I've got enough mana. Well, we've definitely got enough mana with the Black Lotus to do a bit of digging during our main phase here to try and find the Time Walk. Okay, put back the Prophetic Prism here. And I think we're fine to pass here. But, you know, once we get through this turn, I think we want to start digging a lot more from now on. Okay, Plunder. I mean, we're not taking any risks now. This is definitely our game to lose, so I'm just going to discard 2 cards here. We've definitely got enough cards in hand to afford to do that. What else do we want to discard? Probably another Vortex is fine, I think. Or it might as well go for Consider instead, because we can, you know, I kind of want to bounce this Trespasser anyway. And so, you know, we can just loop Consider back from the graveyard with Siphoner. Okay, they're dealing more direct damage with the Trespasser, which we are worried about for sure. So we're already down to 6. And 1 Invoke Despair puts us down to 2 now. Oh, well, they got creatures. How many have they got? Okay, that's the only creature in the opponent's graveyard, thankfully. So the opponent doesn't have a ton of ways to deal direct damage right now. But, I mean, with 1 Invoke Despair and we're down to 1 already. So I really think we need to start digging a little bit more for this Time Walk at this point now. Thankfully, we have a lot of ways to cantrip here. So I think I'm just going to start digging a lot more aggressively now. Get back Seek New Knowledge. Okay, don't need another Seek New Knowledge. Fire off this one, and then we can get back a Consider. So we're getting a lot of looks for the Time Walk here. Okay, 2 Moxen is nice. That's an extra 2 draws and additional mana as well. Although we don't have the Prophetic Prism, so that is a little bit annoying, but we can use it to pay for the colourless on Seek New Knowledge. And I think since we're drawing a lot, I'm going to start blinking the Oracle now, just to try and have a bigger combo turn. Oh, sick. There we go. Perfect, perfect. Okay, so we should just win here then. Cast the Time Walk. Blink the Invitation. And then play the Emerald. We're not going to be attacking with the Siphoner while they have a Trespasser in play, so we can just blink it, get back the Time Walk again. And then cast another Time Walk. Blink the Siphoner. And now we can just get back a Fading Hope to clear the way for our ground creatures to attack. Bounce the Trespasser. Blink the Siphoner again. Get a Time Walk back again. Pitch the Time Twister here. Not going to need that. In fact, that would be a disaster if I cast that. Yeah, okay, sweet. We got there.